Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories. Where today, am I the jerk for not getting my daughter a car after she publicly disrespected me? So last week, me, my wife, and 2 kids went out to the zoo for my daughter's 23rd birthday. We were having a great time. While leaving the enclosure, some woman sort of cut us off and pushed in front of us to get out first. She didn't actually touch us, and it wasn't that big of a deal, but it was a little obnoxious. And I said, "There's no need to push ahead, love." She responded with something like, "How did I push ahead? It's not like there's a queue." I just tutted and thought, whatever, not worth it. But then some giant guy, who was apparently her son, I didn't realize this because they looked very different, said to her, "What, does someone have a problem, Mom?" And she pointed me out. Her son then turned around and started aggressively antagonizing me for no reason, telling me to keep my comments to myself, called me names, called me a Karen, and he kept calling me tiny, saying I had little man syndrome. Just really off-the-wall stuff for what I thought was a benign comment. Then for some reason, my daughter, who's 22, felt the need to take up for this guy and started saying stuff like, "Why are you like this? Why do you feel the need to say something?" And then started apologizing to the guy and agreed with him that I'm a Karen. I was really taken aback by this. Then the guy asks how old she is, and she tells him, and he asks for her number, and she gives it to him. He hands his phone over to her, and she types in her number. The whole time, this guy is staring at me with a grin on his face. When my daughter comes back over to us, I ask her, what the heck was that? And she just says, "What? He's cute, and you need to be put in your place every once in a while." I said, since this is what she thinks, she can buy her own car for her birthday. She clearly thought that I wasn't serious because she asked if we can look at cars, and I told her that she can look herself because I'm still not paying for it. This has divided my house, with my son taking my side, saying she was out of line, and my wife saying it's not worth ruining my relationship with her over. I feel like if not getting her a car as punishment is enough to ruin her relationship with me, then I probably spoiled her too much anyway. She already has a car that I bought her 2 years ago, which works fine, so it's not like I'm exactly depriving her. Am I the jerk? I'm at work on my lunch break right now, so I can't really reply. I have skimmed the comments, and I will address a few things that I think are relevant. 1. The car I bought her 2 years ago was a rundown Fiat 500, secondhand. It's in fine shape, but not exactly the nicest car. I had promised my daughter an Audi, as my son is going traveling for his 21st birthday, which I'm paying for. The car she wanted was roughly the same cost. 2. She doesn't live at home. She hasn't since she moved out for uni at 18. I don't feel like I am a Karen, but I'm not shy to speak up and complain if I feel I must. If people are rude or something is not up to my standard, I'll happily say something. I realistically couldn't fight this 6'4" or whatever 20-something-year-old mouthing off to me. I'm 47 years old, and I've worked an office job for the last 20 to 30 years, and I have a bad back. Why would you buy her another car when you bought her one 2 years ago? You made the entitled brat's bed. Guess you can lay in it. Wife and daughter are the jerks here, not you. OP. The first car was a little runaround Fiat. It works fine, but it isn't the nicest. She wanted an Audi, which I said I would get her. Update. So I got home about an hour ago, and my wife called me into the room to talk. She gave me an ultimatum. She said I can either swallow my pride and buy my daughter the car, or she will buy the car out of her own money. My wife doesn't earn as much as me, but still has a well-paying job and can afford it. She said that everyone is sick of my attitude in public, that every time we go out, I get in some sort of altercation or disagreement with someone over something petty. I think this is a gross over-exaggeration, but my wife showed me texts from my daughter asking if she can go out with just my wife because I always do something to embarrass everyone. My wife refused and defended me, saying that's not true, and that's why when I got in that argument, my wife said nothing about my daughter's actions. She said she isn't going to punish my daughter because I can never keep my mouth shut, especially when my daughter said she didn't want me there because something like this would happen, and she defended me only to be made to look like a fool. She says that my daughter barely likes me as it is, and if I do this, I shouldn't be shocked when she stops talking to me completely. I asked my wife if all I am to my daughter is a piggy bank, and she told me to stop playing the victim. She said it's up to me what I want to do with my money, but my daughter will be getting the car one way or another, so I can either make her hate me for no reason, or I can swallow my pride and get her the car myself. Don't really know where to go from here. Update. So I waited for my son to get home, and my daughter drove around a little later. We all sat down and decided to talk. I started by doing what many of you suggested and asked for actual examples rather than just accepting their word for it. And honestly, a lot of it sounded ridiculous. The fact that I sent back a steak twice because both times it was undercooked, as if it's a crime to want a $180 steak cooked correctly. The fact that I argued with someone who sat in our assigned seats at a cinema, even though it was nearly empty. Again, as if it's a crime to want to sit in the seat that I paid for when there's dozens of other places for these people to sit. And other equally silly things which I can't be bothered to get into and don't even really remember as a result of the insignificance of it. Despite me thinking that it was all ridiculous, I said I would do my best to be a meek pushover in public if that was the only way to get them to like me, and that I would get the car on one condition, that my daughter hadn't actually texted the guy who mistreated me. I asked to look at her messages, and she said not to even bother because she had texted him and I didn't have the right to control who she talks to. I said that is true, but I do have the right to spend my money on whatever I want, and I'm not getting my daughter a car. She has one that works fine, and even if I am a jerk, in a situation where her family is getting threatened, she sided with the aggressor and then doubled down on that, and that is unforgivable. My daughter blew up at me and said that I'm a petty little pig-headed man with a Napoleon complex and that all the money in the world hasn't stopped me from being a loser. I said, "Oh yeah? Because the guy who screams at old men is such a winner." And she screamed at me that I'm not a victim, and then something about how cathartic it was to watch someone stand up to me, and that how the second he did, she watched me shrink back into the little coward I'd always been growing up. That was the final straw. I told her to get out, but she doubled down and told me that my wife had told them about me being bullied growing up, and that's why I am the way I am. I saw my wife turn pale as a ghost at this comment. This is something I confided in her in private. Clearly, this is why my daughter stopped respecting me. Obviously, I wasn't cool enough for her or whatever. I was speechless, but my daughter carried on. She said, "Make a genuine promise to Jake he can still go to Cambodia and ask him what he really thinks." I just nodded. Her brother begged not to be put in the middle of this, but I insisted. All he said was, "Sometimes you can be a bit much, Dad." My daughter called him a wimp and just walked out. My son ran off to his room and my wife drove off after my daughter. She didn't come back last night. I've not heard from my wife or daughter since. I've called out of work. My son left for university without saying a word to me. I've barely slept a wink. I can't believe it. I'm a cliché, a rich old man whose family hates him. If I was lost before, now I'm genuinely clueless about what I'm supposed to do. See a therapist. You may have some underlying issues here, but your family isn't innocent. Get a therapist to weigh in on this. Clearly, your wife betrayed your trust, and your daughter is a 23-year-old entitled kid that you are responsible for. Go to therapy, make it a family therapist, and get actual help. OP, I don't believe in therapy. I didn't need it then, and I don't need it now. I don't need to pay some random person $200 an hour to tell me it's wrong to stand up for myself. Everything about this update still reads like you're the jerk. They give you examples and you ridicule them. When everyone but you sees a situation a certain way, the problem is you, not everyone else. You exhibit major toxic masculinity vibes, and I'm sorry, but 47 isn't old. Get over yourself, get help. You're a cliché because you're a jerk. They dislike you for a reason. OP, if I go to a flat earth convention and say the world is round, does that magically make me wrong, or am I just in a room full of idiots? I don't believe in therapy, says the people who need it the most. I laughed out loud. I'm a joke, I don't know how to fix it. Therapy. Oh, if only there was something to help fix it. Therapy. So sad for having no way of being fixed. Therapy. Oh, cruel world. I don't believe in therapy. Sounds to me like you should do therapy about that. This was a fascinating read. It's so rare to see the other side and into the mind of someone like this. He's going to lose his family. The kids are all grown. The mother has no reason to bite her tongue. And this man will still blame everyone for everything except himself. This daughter calls her dad a loser, but everything she has is because of her loser dad. Why can't she just buy her own car without the parents buying her one? And then the wife, what the heck? Sharing OP's drama and childhood issues? How many people did she go around and tell? Because I bet it's more than just the daughter. And since your issues have been brought out to the open, the OP has regressed and become insecure and vulnerable again, thanks to the wife and daughter. Just give them what they want and ask for. Because OP, you are not what they want. Because like they mentioned, OP is an embarrassment. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or everyone else? Please let us know. I know we'll lose some subscribers for this and people will call me a Karen, but I don't know. I just feel bad for this dude. My wife is demanding I cut ties with my female best friend. Me and Allie met through a mutual friend in 2012 during a pub quiz at university. I was quite attracted to her and actually told her so at the end of the evening, but she told me she had a boyfriend even though she was flattered all the same. Fast forward 3 years, I meet Eliza at the Edinburgh Fringe and we just clicked immediately. Politics, music, cinema, whatever the subject approached, there was a spark that I'd never felt with anyone else. Like she just made sense with me. Her personality was just vivid. It's hard to describe, but I'll try. On first impression, she was so knowledgeable and enthusiastic, I was taken aback by her intensity. From that point onwards, we were inseparable, and I was dead certain on our future together, long before we got engaged. Enter Allie again. I started a new job at an advertising firm with a position in web design, and she was one of the only people I knew. At first, it was a little awkward given our history, especially considering that she was now married to the boyfriend she was dating back then. But there was no one else I knew at the firm, and we both had partners at this point, so it couldn't hurt to be friends, right? And to be honest, I'm glad, because I feel like our chemistry as friends superseded any potential we might have had as a couple. She's clever and has a bit of a cheeky personality. I'm quite dry and sarcastic myself, so I reckon we have a pretty fun dynamic. Eliza doesn't seem to feel that way though. Sometimes when it's been the three of us, she has expressed a feeling of being left out or that Allie has been making fun of her. I don't see it. It's just our dynamic. But there have been a couple of nights where Eliza's been in tears because of something that Allie has said. One time, Eliza got out of her seat and Allie sat down where she had been sitting to show me a video on YouTube. When Eliza came back in, she saw Allie leaning next to me and was upset for the rest of the night. Sometimes there have been times where Allie has said something that Eliza has read as a come on. Like when I said I missed swimming because I felt out of shape, and Allie said, "The two of us should go together," with a playful punch. Eliza didn't say anything at the time, but her discomfort was visible. Things really came to a head though on our wedding, and I think the stress of it really got to Eliza. During the reception, Allie bumped into her and red wine spilled all over her dress. She was bawling the entire evening. We're now on our honeymoon, and Eliza has said she hopes for a fresh start, but she feels like Allie might have spilled her wine on purpose. She's suggesting that I cut ties with her, and if I'm honest, I'm not so sure I want to. Where do I go from here? The number of times I've bumped into someone and spilt my drink on them is exactly once in my entire life, and I was drunk at the time. You're either astoundingly naive, or Allie is somehow the unluckiest woman in the world to accidentally spill her red wine on the bride on her wedding day. I think you know which one is more likely. Your wife won't be staying your wife for much longer unless you start actually listening to her and stop dismissing all of her fears as baseless insecurities. OP. Allie was getting a drink from the bar. Eliza had taken off part of her gown for dining and dancing purposes and was leaving our bedroom to return to our table. They bumped into each other and Eliza had a huge red stain over her dress. Allie made an offhand joke and fled, and Eliza ran up to me in bits and pieces. It sounded really bad when Eliza told me, and she was in bits about the wine being spilled all over her dress, and I went to Allie and asked what was up. Allie was so mortified and told me she wanted to sink into a hole. She's dyspraxic and has struggled with falling at impromptu moments. I've actually witnessed it happening before. There was a meeting at work, and she gets our colleagues coffee. The moment she came in, she tripped and fell. Coffee flew everywhere. Allie bumped into your wife in her wedding dress, spilling wine all over it, and made an offhand joke before fleeing? What kind of response is that? OP. She's a really awkward person and doesn't know how to interact with people sometimes. There have been times I've been upset with her because of how glib she's been about personal issues. It really sounds like you're putting your friend first. No wonder your wife is unhappy. She comes back in tears from hanging out, and you still invite Allie to the wedding. What was that conversation like? OP. She got really upset one time during banter because me and Allie like to roast each other regularly, and Allie roasted her a little too hard, I guess. We were singling out things to insult each other on, and the subject went to Eliza, and Eliza mentioned she had webbed feet. Since then, Allie's called her leapfrog. When I say it, Eliza takes it in good stride, but when Allie says it, it's this massive problem. I don't get it. Eliza has suggested that Allie's being serious when she says it, as opposed to when I do, but she roasts me the same way too. She said I looked like a juggalo's poodle that day because I was wearing baggy metal clothes and hadn't styled my hair, so it was all frizzing all over the place. I don't know how your wife puts up with either of you two, to be honest. Why haven't you stuck up for your wife all those times that Allie has hurt her? OP. I guess because I didn't know that I needed to. It seems like a perspective thing. Eliza is a passionate person who cries at deluxe puppy adverts, and the intensity is great for a partner, but it can cause problems with friendships. She reads a lot into things her friends do, thinking it's intentional, and when she talks to them about what they did, they will be completely shocked and unaware that they hurt her. Allie is a very sarcastic person in general, who rolls with the punches, and to me it reads like they struggle to gel, rather than intentional cruelty on Allie's part. But for what it's worth, Allie has told me that she's really keen on Eliza and thinks she's really cool. Update. You know, I posted here recently looking for guidance on how to deal with my wife's anxiety and hurt revolving around my friend, and it seems like I got read the riot act. Probably rightly so. I have been completely inconsiderate of Eliza's feelings and how she feels about these roastings, and you alerted me to the possibility that Allie is doing this just to be a little jerk. I sat down with Eliza and we had an in-depth conversation about the wedding incident. I got her to describe the event step by step in her own words. I was leaving the lobby into the dining venue, and Allie was a little tipsy at this point and already stumbling from the bar. She was initially walking slower, but seemed to speed up when she saw me. We collided into each other, and she pulled an ashamed face and made a joke about me looking like Rosamund Pike in Gone Girl before scurrying away. She seemed embarrassed in the moment, but she didn't apologize to me. I heard from other people that she was appalled about what had happened, but I never heard anything from her directly. It just paints a picture of habitual microaggressions from her that has festered into this ugly anxiety whenever she's around. I pretty much predict whenever I'm in her vicinity, there will be a weird behavior or uncomfortable comments, and I don't want to continue being in a situation where my husband brings someone into my home who resents me for simply existing. This was a real gut punch to me. For me, I always felt like it was just insecurity about me fancying Allie for 10 minutes a long time ago. But Eliza is really torn about this. She said that the honeymoon has been miserable because the memory has been swirling around in her mind, and she feels like I'm going to downplay or dismiss it. No one should feel like they just can't be themselves, especially not at home. I didn't realize what a jerk I had been, and I apologized profusely to Eliza and decided to call up Allie to confront her about the wedding incident. So I did it, and it didn't go well. Basically, I told her that Eliza was really hurt by the wedding dress incident, that she had been hurt by her behavior for a long time, and that if she can't bring herself to apologize to Eliza's face, at least she should pay it forward by getting the stain removed. And if she couldn't bring herself to even do that, then our friendship had to stop. To say that Allie was taken aback would be an understatement. She was completely blindsided, asking what was wrong with their interactions that made me want to go to such extremes. I mentioned that leapfrog comment, and she went, "But even you call her that," stating that Eliza called her Garfield because of her weight and bright orange hair. When I mentioned that she ran towards Eliza and didn't apologize for spilling wine on her, she got really upset and started shouting that she wasn't running at her to hurl wine at her dress. She was running from her because she didn't want to talk at that moment, because she feels like Eliza hates her and she doesn't know how to go about it. She started pointing out times when Eliza has been funny towards her, and I basically said, "Right, but this isn't about when Eliza has hurt you. This is about when you've hurt Eliza, and it's got so bad that it needs to be talked about." And she started laughing. It was really uncomfortable. I know she does this when she's anxious about something. Eliza asked me if things were okay from the other room, and Allie demanded if this was set up, and when I tried to explain myself, she hung up. Her husband even phoned me, insisting that he would pay for the damage if it's less stressful for me. I told Ewan, her husband, that I appreciated that, but I needed to know where Allie stood regarding what I just said. Ewan told me that Allie makes jokes whenever she's anxious or uncomfortable, and that they've wrote about it in the past, but the wedding dress incident is a major issue and that he wants to smooth things over as much as I do. So him and Allie will pay towards dry cleaning, whilst a condolences hamper is sent to Eliza. Eliza was relieved that Ewan was so understanding, but she wasn't thrilled about Allie's reaction. Basically said the Garfield comment was always about her hair and never about her weight, and that she was deliberately trying to make it seem like the bad behavior went both ways. I don't think it went both ways either, because I've never noticed Eliza roasting Allie in any real way. Eliza has suggested we try marriage counseling. I was a bit shocked at first, because we've only been married for a month, but I decided maybe that's the way forward, because if Eliza reckons that we need counseling for it, then it's clearly a problem. So yeah, Me and Eliza are going to try marriage counseling, and my future with Allie is uncertain. Am I the jerk for not telling my boyfriend I won money 15 years ago? I don't know what I did wrong, or if it was something that I did wrong, but I need advice. I didn't want to post this on my real account because I want to be anonymous. My boyfriend, 35 male, and I, 35 female, were discussing finances as we wanted to be on the same page. My boyfriend moved in with me unexpectedly 3 months ago as his landlord decided to move into the property with his family. We were discussing finances and the topic of how I own my place came up. I explained I won some money. Not a lot, but enough to be able to put myself through nursing school, purchase my home, and have some savings back in 2009. And I bought my place outright and then rented it out until I moved back into it late 2018. Obviously, I had some luck on my side as this was right in the middle of the recession, so I got my place for real cheap. He says I deceived him by giving him the impression that I was financially well off and that I led him to believe I was more business savvy than I was. I don't know how I did that because I literally work as a nurse, making decent money, fully own my home, fully own my car, have decent retirement plans and decent savings. I'm fairly certain that I am financially better off than most people I know. He says that he can't trust me anymore and that he was stupid to have listened to my financial advice. But the thing is, I never gave him any financial advice, except for telling him not to buy a car that was, in my opinion, unreliable and much too expensive. Did I deceive him by not telling him how I got myself financially stable? FYI, we've been dating for almost a year and a half. Edit. I just had another very weird conversation with him, and I honestly can't wrap my head around it. Yeah, so he is definitely a gold digger. He asked me how much I have in savings and seemed impressed with how much, and then said maybe he reacted too aggressively. Then asked/told me that he still wants the car I advised him not to get. He hinted at me getting it for him as a birthday present since it's his birthday in early March. I'm definitely dumping him. Going to wait till my 2 sisters and my 2 brother-in-laws can come over before I break up with him in case he reacts crazy. Edit 2. He's jealous and also resentful. He's ranting about how he would have tripled the money if he had won. Edit 3. He's saying that my money is wasted on me because I don't make it make money. Apparently, I should have been investing my savings in high-yielding stocks and other crap. FYI, I do get financial advice from a financial advisor I trust, but I am a risk-averse person, so I would never invest it in the manner this idiot is telling me to. Sure, the chance to get a lot of money is there, but so is the chance to lose. Edit 4. He's now on a crazy rant because I suggested we take a break from this argument because I don't want to ruin my few days off. I can't believe how he's acting. He thinks he's so clever, but I'm thoroughly disgusted. Oh, it's absolutely over between us. Okay, I understand him much better now. So my house and the property it's on is what led him to believe I was much richer than I am. He assumed I was loaded, so me telling him I actually got lucky ticked him off. When he found out how much in savings and assets I have, he perked up and had a change of mind. He's now telling me that with just a quarter of my money, he can show me how to invest in the stock market and make real money. Oh, he is genuinely deluded. Not the jerk. This feels like jealousy on his part, so he's lashing out. Out of interest, how long have you been together? Because this kind of information can take a while to disclose. If you were together when you won the money and hid it from him, that might be a different argument. Also, you are financially savvy because you got a windfall and didn't waste it. Well done, you. It sounds like you were very responsible about how you spent your windfall, securing yourself a home, paying for your education, and putting the rest aside in savings. I'm not sure about what he's questioning. My concern is that he might have thought you were very wealthy and was hoping you would be his sugar mama. Is he only in this for the money? Thank goodness you found this out right now. I would make him an ex-boyfriend and kick him out. Don't want him to start laying claims to your home's equity after he lives there too long, depending on state and provincial laws on common law partners. He's jealous. He also thinks that you were his meal ticket. He's angry over nothing reasonable. 1.5 years isn't very long, and you don't owe someone the whole, I bought this house because I got money from blah blah blah. Am I the jerk for telling my husband that I can't do this anymore after he quit his job to work with his mother? We're due to have our daughter in 2 weeks and planned ahead of time so I could stay home for a year with her while I'm nursing. We saved around $26,000 plus took into consideration that at his job he was making $3,000 a month, $23 hourly. Our bills for the year come out to around $46,000. Since we got pregnant, his mom has been super overbearing with the boy mom BS. She's been trying to force her way into our lives in ways that I'm not okay with, like trying to convince us to buy a house with her so she can help raise her baby's baby. My husband actually considered this, and I shot it down immediately. Has been stomping in whenever she feels like it with stuff for him and only him. Like she literally brings him food, one serving, only enough for him, around dinner time, probably 2 to 3 days a week, saying, "I just know you miss Mama's cooking." Keeps buying him mom plus son jewelry, knowing he won't wear jewelry, and tells me he will wear it. It's a mom and son thing, you wouldn't understand. When I tell her he's not going to wear it, he hasn't worn any of it. She's 100% treating him like he is her husband, calling him to go do things for her all hours of the day and night, and all around just trying to get him out of our house and over to hers. On the off chance that he does go over, she's like, "Since you're here, I will let you treat me to a mom and son date at Denny's." Or when she's here, she will look at me and tell me how she takes her coffee and expect me to go make it for her. I know I'm rambling, but this woman is crazy. And no, she was not like this prior to me getting pregnant. They barely spoke before I got pregnant. As soon as she found out we were having a baby, she sunk her claws in, with the whole, "My baby isn't a baby anymore" BS. We're literally in our 30s. So if all else wasn't insane enough, she's been trying to convince my husband for the last 3 months to quit his job, search and rescue, and go work for her so they can spend more time together. She works at a medical rehab facility. I told him I won't tolerate that for one reason. It's $13 an hour, $10 less an hour than he makes now. I've talked reason with him. Like if he goes there, I'll end up having to go back to work because $13 an hour cuts his monthly income in half, just about. And this is not what we agreed to or planned on. Not only that, but her job is bi-weekly pay and doesn't have benefits for a year. He had full benefits at his job. He told me he didn't want to work with his mom and not to worry about it. About 2 months ago he said that. But I just found out last night that he did in fact quit his job and applied at the place his mom works at and bypassed the interview process because mommy vouched for him. So now he has a job with her. I wasn't nice about it when he told me, admittedly. I asked him why he would do that, and he goes, "Well, my mom is getting older, and she wanted me to work with her so we can hang out more before she passes." She's literally 61 and healthy. I slept on it and decided I couldn't do this. I told him this morning that I couldn't do this. I'm not going to be overruled by a woman who refuses to stay in her lane. I'm not going to bow down to a mommy's boy or a woman who grossly won't leave her son alone. He can do it on his own, and we can do this separately. I told him I will take the money I saved, $23,000 of the $26,000, and figure it out on my own, and that he needs to leave and go back to being with his mom. He, for whatever reason, is shell-shocked that I'm taking it this far and saying I'm the jerk for not understanding that his mother is getting older and wanting to spend time with him should be important. I'm not budging though. He's allowing her to destroy our lives. Edit to add, I want to touch base on financials real quick for the people commenting, being a single mom is going to be great. If he was to leave and we got divorced, my bills would reduce by at least 1/4 if not more. I've been helping him pay off his student loan debt for 5 years, and the price keeps increasing, so there's no end in sight. With the $23,000 that I saved, I could pay for my home and bills for a year and a half. When I add his bills and his debt to the equation, it won't even cover a year. I'm not afraid of single motherhood. He would be involved regardless if we separate as well. ETA again. He signed a prenup. I owned the house long before we started dating. I withdrew my $23,000 from the bank and put it in my personal account. I already spoke to an attorney and I'm in the clear to do so because I have a paper trail on what was mine versus what was his. I'm an accountant. Numbers and money is kind of my specialty. I have it all handled legality-wise. Not the jerk. He has a family. That should be his first priority. By taking this new job, he's putting his family in financial burden. Mommy also needs to step back. She feels like she's gonna lose her son, but that's no excuse. Am I the jerk for dropping out as my brother's best man a couple of days before his wedding? I'm 36, and my brother, who's 30, got married this past weekend. I was supposed to be his best man. The wedding was 12 and up because they didn't want to have to deal with toddlers and such, which is fair enough. A lot of guests do have younger kids though, so they decided to have a venue nearby with a professional sitter if parents wanted to drop their kids off there. My wife has some injuries that make her slow to respond and understand what others are saying, and she needs help sometimes with her food. I'll cut it up into small pieces. This doesn't mean she's nothing, and she's a smart, capable woman. They had the rehearsal dinner. At the end, my sister-in-law pulled me aside, saying she had to discuss something with me. She said they told us about the additional venue they'll be having for their wedding. I said yes. Then she asked if my wife had any particular food preferences and they would order extra food for her there. I was extremely confused and told her we already gave our meal choices, but she said my wife would be better suited at the second venue. I remember just sort of staring at her for a bit and asking if she was serious, that she expected my wife to be with the babysitter. Sister-in-law said it's not like that and they're just looking out for my wife and I don't have to feed her or anything and can have fun at the wedding. My brother came over and I told him I've literally never heard such crap, that they think my wife is a kid to be left with a sitter. Brother said it's for the best and if I want, I can always go over and check on her. I told him if this is the way they're treating my wife, I have no desire to be a part of their crap show and dropped out as best man. Well, all heck broke loose and some people agreed that I was right, but my parents texted, called, everything, saying that they don't agree with this either, but it's their choice and to get over my ego and still come. I didn't end up going. I did hear that they got one of the groomsmen to give a speech and overall it was fine, but my brother sent me a text saying he expected better from me. I replied back saying I expected better from him. My sister-in-law sent a long text that I ruined their big day on purpose and made them look bad. Not the jerk. Sister-in-law ruined the day herself, nothing to do with you. Also, can't believe your parents' reaction either. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.